The Super Speedway Podcast is a Dream Bigger media production. For news, photos, show notes, and information about advertising on the podcast, visit www.thesuperspeedway.com.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Super Speedway.
Welcome to episode 67 of the Super Speedway Podcast, recorded Tuesday, July 3rd, 2018. See, I already screwed it up. I am your host, Eric Young. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, James Cush. James, how are you this week?
I'm doing good, man. You came into the podcast leaking confidence, and you made it a good 7 words in.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just the way we like to roll around here. It's okay.
Exactly. Well, let's see how it goes from here. This weekend, all 3 NASCAR series traveled to Chicagoland Speedway, one of pretty much fans' least favorite tracks on the circuit, one that has produced basically no exciting finishes since it opened in 2001. Kyle Busch managed to get his 5th win of the season in the Cup Series, and it was just another boring Chicagoland race, right, James?
Well, you got to see history, man.
Yeah, here we go. This is the end.
And there's the gap between 1 and 2. Kyle Busch. And here comes Larson. Larson to the bottom of the track.
Slide job.
Trying to take the lead away.
Slide job.
They touch. Busch is in the wall. They get away and race down the back chute.
They're side by side again. Going into 3 for the lead. Larson has the advantage.
Kyle Busch gets into the back of him. Both of them in the wall. Larson stays in the gas. He spins to the bottom and they're side by side.
The 18 into the wall. The 42 sideways.
Where's Harvick?
Here comes the 18.
And Kyle Busch will score the win after getting together with Kyle Larson.
Oh, my man. What a race.
All right, is it just me, or do you get chills listening to that, too?
That's the best call I've heard in quite a few years.
Oh,
that was good.
So good. It was so good. So, yes, we did not get a normal, boring Chicagoland race this weekend. As a matter of fact, we got 3 excellent Chicagoland races, and I was there, so maybe I have a differing view than other people, but I don't think anybody's arguing about the Cup race, that at least the ending made it pretty spectacular and probably the best Chicagoland race ever for the Cup Series. Yeah, it was, I think everything aligned, and we had one of those races that we needed in NASCAR. We finally got it. What do you think?
Yeah, it's one of those. NASCAR has this happen every so often when the lights are on the big stage, and we had Dale Jr. in the booth, and people are tuning in to watch, and we got the finish we needed, and it all worked out, and it was fantastic. And I don't know what else to say. That clip pretty much says it off. If you don't have the hair on the back of your neck standing up after that one, you're not listening to the right podcast.
Yeah. What was Kyle's comment? If you didn't like that, you probably should just watch something else or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the NASCAR Twitter account doubled down on it and said the same. So I was like, okay, all right, this is good.
It was spectacular. I will make a confession before we start talking about the race. I was there. I was there live. I watched the race from the press box. I watched the end on a TV screen because I was on my way down the elevator because there's no tunnel in the front stretch at Chicago. You got to go all the way to turn 1 for the tunnel. So they open the gate after the race is done and you can cross the track. So I was trying to get down there and beat the elevator traffic in the tower. So I was riding down as they were talking about the lap traffic and Newman getting in the way, and I'm listening to it on the scanner, listening to the TV broadcast, and I came out of the elevator at the moment they were getting the white flag, watched it on a TV screen, and then immediately ran out to the front stretch fence to get, which I didn't post on the Super Speedway channel, I should on that page, to get video of Kyle coming out of the car and celebrating with the fans and all that stuff. So, yeah, I watched it on TV just like everybody else, even though I was there. So
it's just fantastic. It's just classic, I guess.
it was pretty great. So Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson battle it out to the finish. Kyle Busch outduels Larson, gets into the back of him going into the turn, going into turn 3. I guess let's start here. And I know there's been so much talk about this. Everybody's gone crazy about it. I listened to Sirius all the way home yesterday. Everybody's been talking about it. This has been analyzed and torn apart and looked at 50 different ways and whatever. But we're going to do it anyway because, when was the last time we had a finish like this? So, First of all, was what happened racing? Was it over the line? Was this okay? What do we think?
Man, I wish we could just enjoy it without having to, you know what I'm saying? But
I think we can because I think it was racing, man.
Yep, and that response answers the question for me too. That's just good racing. We just don't see it that much anymore. And
No.
I don't know if it shocks people or what, but man, just good racing. They raced each other clean. You can have contact
Right.
and still be racing clean.
Right.
And
Nobody
Kyle
was
Busch,
wrecking anybody. They were just trying to slow each other down.
Exactly. Larson slid up into Kyle, but it's not like there's a difference between giving him the fender and hooking somebody.
Right.
And that was just good side-by-side wheel banging NASCAR racing.
Well, that's a good point to do this. Okay, so there was a lot of talk. I heard a lot of the Kyle Busch haters say, as a matter of fact, I had a friend on my Facebook page that's like, Kyle Busch wrecked Larson. Larson went into the corner. He tried to pass him on the inside. He got loose and accidentally got into him. Okay, no.
That's not.
That's not what happened. Here's a clip from the press conference. This is the first thing Larson said when he got into the press conference after the race. The contact was intentional. So here's what Larson had to say.
No, I mean, I wasn't really trying to make it in front of him. I figured if I ran in there to try and clear him, I would have had to slow down so much to not hit the wall that he would have just turned underneath me, and it wouldn't even been a battle to the win. So, I mean, I didn't initially go in there planning to run into the side of him, but when I ran in there and figured I wasn't going to have enough momentum to clear him and get going, I kind of made the plan to try and squeeze into him to bog him down, and it worked. He was able to get back to my back bumper into 3.
So, I assume from your comments on TV, you're okay with what he did?
Yeah, I mean, I hit him first, so I roughed him up, he roughed me up. That's racing.
I love that quote.
Yeah, me too.
That's the quote of the weekend right there. So, yeah, Larson meant to hit him. He did say in a couple of the interviews, and I think he said it in the press conference too, that he might have hit him a little harder than he'd planned to do, but he did plan to get into him, plan to try and slow him down. So let's not play this whole Kyle Larson is innocent in this deal, because he's not.
Nobody's guilty here
right,
either.
Exactly.
It's just, this guy's just wheels up. And I was thinking about this too. There's a handful of drivers in that garage area who have the skills that these two guys have that could pull off such a. I mean, they were fender banging, wheel banging, and it was calculated.
Right.
The two of them were both, pulling it off, and then, Larson after Kyle Busch hits him square in the rear end, and that's fine, hit him square. Larson saves it.
Right.
Watching him slide through turn 4. I don't know how many guys could have that battle.
He still got second place.
Yeah, it's like, I know he's still got second place, and it's like you're watching two guys who have their like Madden numbers pegged at 99. They were just dueling it out. It's just fantastic, man. It's just fantastic.
It was pretty spectacular. I don't really have a good place to do this, so here's what Kyle Busch had to say in the media center after the race.
I thought he was going to pull a slide job, and when he didn't try to do a slider, then I wasn't sure what his next move was going to be. I was like, surely he's not going to drive in the side of me. And then he did. And so after that point, I was kind of like, okay, well, all games are off right now. All bets are off. And it's wide open here from here on out to back to the checker flag. So, he got a run on me off of turn 2 after I got in the fence. It just stalled, killed my momentum. And then his side draft was able to propel him by me. I tried to retaliate with a side draft, but I wasn't really close enough and wasn't really getting anywhere with it. So he got by me, and getting into turn 3, it was just about following him in there and seeing if I couldn't cut left under him, if he would slide up. He didn't slide up, so I drove off in there as far as I could, and I got into the back of him. And once I did that and he was kind of sliding loose, I just was trying to get back to the start-finish line after that. So it was just, a product of kind of once it's done to you, then it's fair game, and it's on, I guess. So, that's kind of what transpired.
So after Kyle gets the win, he comes down on the front stretch, parks on the start-finish line. The right side of the car is all ripped off. The right front tire's flat. The car's destroyed. He climbs out. Now, mind you, it's hotter than crap. I mean, it was I don't think Sunday wasn't as hot as Friday, and I don't think it was as hot as Saturday, but it was still hot. And he's been in a car for 3 hours in the heat, climbs out of the car after this epic finish that how could anybody be upset with this finish? And he is showered with boos. Like, I'm standing at the fence, and there were so many boos, it was almost frightening. I'm looking behind me to see if stuff's going to start flying, because all I can think of is Jeff Gordon and beer cans when he beat Dale Jr. at Talladega. And fortunately, nobody threw anything, so that was good. But there's people booing, flipping him off, just giving him the business. And Kyle made some comments on the TV broadcast, made a little crying face to the camera, which has become quite the internet meme, which I think is spectacular. And made the comment about if you didn't like that, you shouldn't watch, and basically mocked everybody for booing him and blah, blah, blah. Did we think Kyle was going to do anything different, first of all, and is it a big deal? I mean, I think it's funny, personally.
Yeah, I don't think it's. I mean, I think Kyle. Well, isn't that the face Kyle Busch makes all the time anyway? Isn't that just his face? I don't understand. Well, and you got to remember, with people at the racetrack, majority of them don't have the headset on.
Right.
So all they see is Kyle Busch, smoke, you know.
Right.
And the first thing they go to is, oh, he dumped him.
Yep.
And that's fine. And that's. I mean, we've talked on this podcast many times. That's Kyle Busch's role.
Right.
He's the villain, like it or not. That's what he's going to be. He can do as many Dirty Mo podcasts as he wants. It's not going to change. He's the villain, and fans are gonna, But you need that. You need that guy in sports.
Exactly.
And that's just Kyle Busch's role. And if Kyle Busch being the villain brings more viewers to the TV next week, then he's doing his job. He's doing a good thing.
I'll tell you what, when you get out of the car and you're booed like that, there's two things you can do. Well, there's three things you can do. You can ignore it, which I don't think most people aren't going to do that probably. You can try to appease those fans and try to win their respect, or you can give it back to them, and that's what Kyle has done. And
give it back to him, yeah.
I mean, they asked Joe Gibbs about it in the press conference afterwards, what Joe thought of his driver getting booed, and he said that, a lot of people boo him, a lot of people cheer him. It's just part of it. And NASCAR fans are passionate, and they like the passion, and as long as they're passionate about something, they're good.
Yeah.
So,
what's the old Dale Earnhardt quote? Remember, what he told Jeff Gordon? As long as they're making noise.
Yep.
Doesn't matter what noise it is. As long as they're making noise, you're relevant.
Right.
And it sounds like, from your perspective, Kyle Busch is very relevant.
Yes.
Very loud.
Quite relevant.
Which is good.
Here's the thing. I mean, let's look at Kyle and just evaluate for a second. So he is a gigantic Days of Thunder fan, right? He is a huge Days of Thunder fan, loves the movie. He's numbered the cars in his truck series entries by the numbers from Days of Thunder. He drives the 18 car, which was, yes, he inherited it through Joe Gibbs, but it's the 18 car from Days of Thunder. And Kyle identifies with a character from the movie. He doesn't identify with the good guy, Cole Trickle.
No.
He identifies with the bad guy. So what do you expect?
Exactly.
I mean, that's the thing. So, I'm good with him playing the role. I like him playing the role. I like the fact that people get fired up about it. I get a little annoyed when they really got a bellyache over it, and it's like, okay, so hate him. Anybody but Kyle, great. But I'm not watching this sport because Kyle, who gives a crap? Come on.
I think you should want to watch the sport because of Kyle Busch.
The people are saying how they wanted him to just get out and be vanilla, and it's like, we had vanilla. We have 7 championships worth of vanilla, and nothing against Jimmy Johnson. He's a great driver, but he is vanilla as vanilla can be. And he doesn't move the needle like Kyle Busch does because of that. And it's good to have somebody that does that,
Exactly. Yeah. Everybody's got it. NASCAR, and he's not the only villain in NASCAR. He's just the biggest. He's Darth Vader.
Right.
He wears the black cape.
Right. And he's.
If Joey Logano.
Go ahead.
Just real quick. If Joey Logano did the same dump, it's not a dump. Let me rephrase that. If Joey Logano did the exact same move, he would have gotten the booze. Probably not quite as bad, but pretty bad.
Right.
It would have been the exact same thing. Brad Keselowski's probably in that boat too. All those guys are.
Especially now, if Brad Keselowski did it at Michigan, he might get away with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe.
Kyle Busch can't do it anywhere.
No.
That's what makes him Vader.
But now if the roles were reversed and Kyle Larson spun Busch to get the win, Kyle Larson, place, they would have torn that place down cheering for Kyle Larson.
They would have loved it.
Which is good. I mean, and that's the thing. It's like, I like the fact that we have a rivalry here, regardless of the fact that Kyle Larson has never gotten the best of this rivalry. He's never beat Kyle Busch in this rivalry. Yes. But we have a rivalry here, and it's a friendly rivalry. They both respect each other. They both said it in the media center after the race. They respect each other. They race each other the way they want to be raced, and it's great. This is what we need. Yeah,
they're the two best wheelmen in the sport, and we need them to collide more often. And Larson, to his part, did everything right. He just got in front of Kyle a little too soon, and Kyle,
Well, he said that he didn't want to get in front of him because he didn't want to open up the rear bumper. But see, that's the thing too. Again, I want to go back to this, and I wish I'd have been writing notes as I left the track and as I drove home, which obviously I'm not going to do while I'm driving the car. But I had so many. I was listening to Sirius, and every time somebody would say something, it's like I had a counter argument. I had something I wanted to say. I could talk about this for hours, although I've forgotten half of what I thought about. But here's the deal. These guys aren't stupid. They're excellent drivers. They know how to wield these cars, and they know how to spin somebody out. And if if Busch was trying to dump Larson, he'd have hit him in the corner, not dead center in the rear end of the car.
Yep.
You don't spin a guy out hitting him in the center of the rear end. You do that to move him up out of the way, to try and get past him. You're not trying to wreck him, and he wasn't trying to wreck him.
Exactly. It's a classic short track move, only they were doing it at 180 miles an hour on a mile-and-a-half track. He just gave him a good, hard shot in the butt. I've done that at the go-kart track, racing my buddies. We go into a slower corner, and I'll just ride them right up into the right up into the outside. Don't put them in the fence, but get them out of your way. You're faster. You're moving them.
See, that's not how I race, actually. When I race at the go-kart track, I just dump them. I don't race clean, man. What are they going to do? Penalize me? Like, you don't get penalized at the go-kart track. Right. I mean, the win's a win, man.
Yeah.
So,
win's a win.
I'm sure we'll come back to this a little bit. I'm sure we'll talk about it more. But this Chicago race was full of storylines, and there were a lot of great storylines in this race. This was an excellent race at a track that's been terrible. This was an excellent race from the start, and without the ending, I would still be praising this race because there was so much that was interesting that happened. So probably the biggest storyline of the day was Stewart-Haas. They were the cars to beat all day. At one point, it was really interesting. I actually made note of it. At one point, there were 3 Stewart-Haas cars, 1, 2, 3, and none of them were Harvick. Harvick was back like 6th or 7th at that time. So everybody had a great day for a while.
Yeah.
And then we had, and I wanted to pull some of the audio from this, but I didn't get a chance to. We had what I will refer to as the Clint Bowyer implosion, which was just, it was painful to watch, and sitting there in the press box, and we're all discussing it, and it's like, oh my God, he didn't stop. He needs to stop. And so he speeds on pit road, essentially, which Chicago is notorious for speeding. I don't know which section he sped in, but Chicago is notorious because the last segment of pit road is really short. And so a lot of the drivers were warned before the race, don't go to red on the lights in that section, because if you even hit the red, you're speeding. And so Bowyer speeds on pit road during his pit stop, comes back in to serve the drive-through penalty, speeds again on the drive-through penalty. Now, NASCAR's rule is once you get penalized for the penalty, you have to make a stop and go. So he comes back around, and somehow the message didn't get to him. He says he was just frustrated and wasn't paying attention at the time. He didn't stop, and so he drives through again. Now he has to come back around, do the stop and go, and come back out. Finds himself 3 laps down, still able to battle back to get back on the lead lap. And what, he finished 5th, wasn't it?
Yeah, he ended up.
Yeah,
he ended up 5th. Yep.
Yeah, it's like, holy cow. Somehow,
some way.
Because he was spectacular. He was really one of the best cars on the track.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What he did. I was just gonna say, what he did on Sunday is one of the reasons I have a hard time taking him seriously. Like, how can you just be such a bonehead sometimes? I just feel like that's you know what I mean. It's
this was Mark Martin coming down on pit road on the white flag lap type of screw up. This was Jeff Gordon pitting on the wrong end of pit road under green flag at Bristol type screw up.
Yep. Dale Jr. missing his pits how many times in a row? Remember, gosh, dang, Clint, you look how good his car is. He's still got 5th place, and
Yeah.
all he has to do is, just be a little bit more patient. That's all.
But I guess if you're going to make a stupid mistake like that, do it when you've already got 2 wins on the season and you're in the playoffs.
Oh yeah, he's good to go. He ain't got nothing to worry about.
So, meanwhile, the other Stewart-Haas guy, one of the others, Eric Almirola, also had a super fast car, probably the fastest car of the day, I think.
This one ticks me off. Keep going.
So,
fantasy related.
Yeah. Gets a loose wheel. I haven't even looked at fantasy to see how it went. See, I made sure Truex was in my lineup because of where he started, because I figured that would help me out.
I had Almirola, and I was really feeling pretty good.
So Almirola gets a loose wheel, has to come back in and pit right at the end of the stage. Works out for him because he gets the lucky dog, gets back on the lead lap. But then they had another loose wheel, which I haven't heard whether it was the same wheel or not. A lot of times when you get a loose wheel, you'll break something or damage something, and you'll end up with loose wheels the rest of the day. That may be what happened. It might have been something different. The crew, I was listening to the scanner. The crew was saying they checked with everybody. Everybody gave a thumbs up. All the tires were tight. All the lugs were tight. But he definitely had a loose wheel the second time, came back down pit road, and basically threw the race away at that point. Was not able to recover from that. Let's see, where did he end up finishing? 25th on the day. Yep. So,
my favorite stat from the race, Eric Almirola led 70 laps. That is more laps in one race than Danica Patrick led her entire career.
Yeah. I believe when that happened too was right about the time he had led the most laps that he's led in a race in his career.
Yeah, it's right up. Yeah, it's right up there.
I believe it. Yep. I believe they were saying that in the press box. So Almirola has trouble. Boyer has trouble. Kurt Busch ran well as well. He was leading at the end of stage 2, coming out of turn 4, when Mr. Harvick, his teammate, decided to make a move on the outside. Both of them got loose. Harvick kind of pinched himself into the wall. Busch almost spun out, and Harvick passes them to get the stage win. I also wanted to pull audio from this, but I would have had to bleep the crap out of it.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say, did you listen to Radioactive?
I've not listened to Radioactive. I listened to here's the thing. Here's my strategy for a NASCAR race, all right? I always go with the scanner. Generally, I listen to TV broadcast. Now, I was not listening to TV broadcast because in the press box they have the TV broadcast going, so I was actually scanning channels. But I always make sure, even if I don't program all the cars into a race, I program the Busch brothers into my scanner, because if anything happens to them, I want to listen to what they have to say. And Kurt is top on the list of making sure to have programs. So as soon as I saw that happen, I flipped over to his radio, and they did a really good job on NBC of censoring the audio. Because from what I heard, I wasn't sure how they were going to bleep it out, because the
guy who did all the bleeps needs a pay raise. Yeah. That sounded to me like the old Kurt Busch. It wasn't just that incident. He had multiple incidents with the radio on Sunday.
He was so mad, and I liked what Jeff Burton said, that, man, it's racing. They're racing for a playoff point. Teammate doesn't matter, man. And I tell you what, if anything, it shows you that there are no team orders at Stewart-Haas.
No.
I mean, none whatsoever, which is great. Yeah. I think that was excellent. Kurt should not expect his teammate to sit back there behind him if he's got a faster car. No. And that's stage racing, man. That's what NASCAR created with the stage racing. And it worked to perfection.
Love it. I love it.
Oh, Kurt was mad.
Yeah, mad all day. Just mad all day.
Yeah.
Jeez.
All right, so those were probably the big storylines on the day, I think. I don't think I missed anything. Like I said, those were the interesting ones. It was interesting from that point on, and watch. Oh, the other thing that was really interesting, which I'm sure they didn't show it on TV, but I'm sure I know they talked about it a little bit. On the green flag, of course, we had 4 drivers. They had to go to the rear because of inspection issues, because they did an inspection after qualifying instead of before it. We won't go into all the details of that, but one of those was Martin Truex Jr., and he passed half the field on the first 2 laps. And they took the green flag, and he went right to the wall. He went to the Kyle Larson line right off the wall and just mowed him down. And he was flying. Like, the first lap around, I'm looking, and it's like, I know that's his car, but man, that can't be his car that far up in the field. And sure enough, it was. And Jimmy Johnson started back there too. Jimmy wasn't able to make the progress at all that Truex did. It was just, it was really impressive. I mean, he was at the end of stage 1. I think he was 7th or 6th or something like that. It was pretty impressive.
You know, if you look at the top 5 finishers from this race, that's your power 5 on the season.
Yeah,
those are the guys. Those are your legit title contenders. I don't care if Larson has a win or not. He's shown me enough. That
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's nobody else that I could pick in there that's going to be
those are
one of those
that's
players. Will be
one of those
the
5
champion.
is your champion.
Yep.
One of those 5.
I agree with you. That's
Yep.
And
I'll even throw Clint Boyer in there. He's good enough.
Yeah, and
those
I mean
5.
he was good at Chicago. I think Chicago is going to be really similar to Homestead, and other than the heat. You know, it's a wide track. They run that high line and low line and all that. So, and it's the older asphalt. I think that running well at Chicago is going to bode to running well at Homestead as well. So.
Well, and that's the thing with Larson. That's why you can never count Larson out. Every time we go to one of these tracks, he's there.
Oh,
and
he never left that wall hardly at all. He was. I cannot like Larson 2 years ago would have hit the wall a bunch, and he never hit the wall, and he was just inches.
He
off
did
of
brush it once,
right toward the end.
Yeah, right towards the end. He brushed it once, and it was almost to me when you and I were at Eldora that one year, and he just kept pounding the wall off turn 4. I was like, oh boy, here he comes. You know, I was getting good memories back with Larson. I love when Larson's chasing somebody down and banking it off the wall.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. How about anybody else we really want to single out as far as winners and losers on the day, James?
Well, at the beginning of the podcast, I said you witnessed history, and the history I was referring to right away was you got to see the Paul Menard pole.
Yes, and the second one in 10 years.
The very rare pole sitter gets no laps led.
Yeah. Well, and the part of that was, and they talked about it on Dave Moody talked about it on Sirius yesterday, and he had a really good point that because of the way they ran the enhanced schedule this weekend for the first time, they were supposed to do it at I forget where else they were supposed to do it. Pocono, maybe, I don't know. They were supposed to do it at another track, but they got rain, so this was the first time they did it. And basically, we had first of all, it was a 4-race weekend. They had ARCA, Truck, Xfinity, and Cup. But Friday they had truck practice, truck qualifying, and Xfinity practice. But the Cup cars never got on the track, so they got on the track. They had 2 practices on Friday, and then qualifying after the Xfinity race, just like we used to do back in the old days, except usually that used to be Friday. So they had qualifying after the Xfinity race, and then that was it. It was an impound race. So those guys that were up front aren't always necessarily going to be the guys that run well in the race because maybe they had more of a qualifying setup on it, which is like what Paul Menard did.
Can we take more practices away every weekend?
I thought this weekend, I think this enhanced schedule was perfect. Now, it was a little annoying as a media member because they had to go through inspection after qualifying, which means inspection didn't finish till like 10:30 at night. I did not stay for that. I left for that. I was not as dedicated as like the Claire B. Langs and Bob Pockrass's, but it was that was the only flaw to it at all. Otherwise, I think it was spectacular. I think it was great that there was something. You run these Xfinity races at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then there's nothing happening at the track the rest of the day. Why not run qualifying or practice after it? We used to run happy hour after the Xfinity race at Michigan.
I'm not one to push an agenda. I try not to push agendas out there very often, but 2 practices, half an hour each, done.
Yeah. I'm even all right with doing the what they have 55 minutes or something like that for their practices.
Keep these cars off the track until it's time to let them try to dial it in real quick.
Right.
But if you're messing around and you're not getting through inspection or whatever and you miss a practice, that's your fault.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like Kyle Busch, they talked about they came out they unloaded off the truck terrible. They never got it fixed in practice. They didn't have time to get it fixed in practice, and they were terrible in the race. There's an audio clip of Kyle Busch going plowing on the radio and managed to get whatever they needed to do with the adjustments to get to the finish and get the win.
Exactly.
So I mean these guys are good enough. They can get away with that stuff. And
make your in-game adjustments just like any other sport.
And I'm totally fine with impound races. I think qualifying's pointless anyway. So why not give those guys that really want a shot at an upfront parking spot, upfront starting spot, or I was thinking pit stall, a good pit stall pick.
You were thinking about the walk from the parking lot to the media center at Chicago in 115 degree weather.
Yeah, actually, that's a whole nother story. But anyway, I'm good with the impound thing and let people play some strategy to get a better starting spot, but sacrifice the race. But I think the way that they did this schedule this weekend, it was busy. There was a lot more running around and a lot less downtime for media and whatnot, but that's good. I mean, I don't want to go sit at the track and wait for stuff to happen. I want stuff to be happening all day. So
yeah,
I think it was a good setup. I really like, this is the first 3 race weekend, 3 NASCAR races, because when they've run ARCA, but ARCA runs like a late model show. Really, they run their little bit of practice and then they qualify. It's really not like other series. It's not like a NASCAR series of the practice that they get. I really like the 3-day truck Xfinity Cup show. It was interesting. It was good. There was always stuff happening. Now, if we'd had weather affect it, then it starts to get hairy because the schedule's so tight that a little bit of weather really screws it up. But fortunately, that held off till after the race. So, anybody else? Ryan Blaney started outside front row. He ends up 18th. He really was nothing throughout the race.
Yeah, led 19 laps, but the laps were pretty dispersed out there. Keselowski led 16, Bowyer 21, Harvick 39. So
I like the fact that, and we're going to talk a little bit about Chicagoland coming up, like just in general the weekend. But I like the fact that they could run people down and pass. That was nice. It was good to see.
Hot, slick asphalt.
Yep. So Trevor Bayne 26th. Let's see. Nobody really jumps out at me.
Michael McDowell, 21st. I mean, that's a nice little jump for him. Ricky Stenhouse was in everybody's way.
Yeah. And so was Ryan Newman.
Yeah, Ryan Newman, too. Yeah, the two of them.
Yeah.
Boy, Ricky Stenhouse was getting yelled at by everybody out there.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, not surprising.
He had Bowyer mad at him. He had Larson mad at him.
Yeah.
So.
Daniel Suarez comes home with an 11th place finish. He had to go to the back because of unapproved adjustments before the start of the race. Worked his way back up and then had a speeding penalty, I believe, during the race too, and still managed to get 11th place. So good on him.
Alex Bowman has been very quietly sneaking out top 10s.
Yep.
And got another one. That's 2 in a row.
Yeah.
So
Eric Jones in 6th place. I mean, really didn't even see him. Didn't even notice he was there.
That's another one who kind of finish. Yeah, he had 2 sneaky good finishes in a row too. He had a good run at Sonoma and backed it up with another good run at Chicagoland. Right.
Really, if you weren't a Stewart-Haas car, nobody noticed you were there until the end of the race, and then Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson came out of the woodwork. But really, it was a Stewart-Haas day for the most part. But it wasn't one specific Stewart-Haas guy running away with it. And like I said, the one that you expect to run away with it wasn't the guy running away with it. He still got third. Yeah. But Harvick was really a non-factor all day for the most part.
That's got to be so demoralizing to the other teams to know, like, even though Stewart-Haas didn't get a win this weekend, it's like, God dang, you've got those 4 bullets out there, and like, what are you supposed to do?
Right.
It's just a full cannon of cars that are just, good grief.
Yeah.
They're tough.
So who's the low man on the totem pole at Stewart-Haas right now, in your opinion? Is it Kurt or is it Eric?
I think it's still Almirola. He had a good race, but he's still not. I mean, he led 70 laps, but he's led 71 laps on the season now. So
right.
Let's if he would have pulled off that Daytona 500 win, then he would have would have had something. But they're all, I mean, throw a blanket over, the entire team. They're pretty much all right there. It's just Harvick's getting the wins, and Bowyer's got his 2. So
yep.
Yeah, I don't know if there really is a low man on the. I'd rather be the low man on the totem pole in that group than probably anywhere. The best driver anywhere else, probably but Gibbs. So.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let's see, Dale Jr. We talked about him in the booth this week. I did not get to fully listen to it. Like I said, it was on in the press box, but of course I was paying attention to other stuff too. What did you think of Dale Jr. in the booth, James?
Dale did very well. He brings I haven't heard very many people say this, but this is my opinion. He brings a youthful kind of vibe to the booth.
Okay.
He's very slow paced talking, but I think that's just the southern boy in him.
Right.
But Dale's very articulate. He does a good job. I don't know how I feel about the 4-man booth right now, but if that last lap of the race is any example of how it can work, it really did. Dale was not stepping over Rick Allen. They bounced off each other pretty well. Rick was still able to call the race as the lead man, and Dale was able to inject his enthusiasm. I think that is what he's there to do. He's there to inject enthusiasm, and he did it. Right. And it was a great stage for him.
There was a finish not too long ago on Fox that was a really close finish. And I don't remember which one it was, but it was more recent enough that Jeff Gordon was in the booth, and here's Mike Joy, arguably the best NASCAR broadcaster ever. Certainly, in my opinion, the best one now. Nothing against Rick Allen, but Mike Joy is Mike Joy. And here's Jeff Gordon and Darrell Waltrip just talking over him and not letting him get the call out. And that's you don't get that on NBC. They were, despite the fact that they were making comments and saying things on that last lap, Rick Allen got the call, and that's the way it should be. He's the play-by-play guy.
Yep, he's the man.
I thought I liked the explanations that I heard Junior give. I thought he gave a lot of insight from somebody who just got out of the car, basically. He was really able to provide some good explanations of things, which I was expecting. Just based on the stuff he talks about on his podcast, I was expecting a lot of really good stuff like that. And I liked the fact, I guess I think he tweeted something or put something on Facebook or something, or maybe it was his Periscope after the race or whatever, Facebook Live, said something about how he'll get better. He's working on it. He'll get better. And it's like, I don't want him to get better. I like the fact that he wasn't polished. I like listening to that Slide Jobs comment,
Slide job!
at the end of the race. I love that. I want that in the booth from some. That's what I expect Dale Jr. to be. I don't want Dale Jr. to turn into a broadcaster. I want Dale Jr. to be Dale Jr.
Well, Dale Jr. is, for NASCAR, the natural evolution of what play-by-play is going to be and what it has turned into. The great tie-in with other sports, if you are a big football fan, is Tony Romo, right? He comes off the field, goes into the booth, and he is fantastic.
Yep.
And that's he Tony Romo's had zero broadcast experience, but he goes out there and he's great. And Dale Jr. again, Dale Jr. is a good talker. He's had the podcast for a few years, and he's familiar with with speaking. Obviously, he's been doing it for a long time in the public eye. So
my prediction, I don't know if I've made this on the podcast or not. I put it on Twitter though. I think Dale Jr. is going to have a bigger impact as a broadcaster than he did as a race car driver.
It's possible.
That's my prediction.
It's possible.
See Dale Jr. as a Buddy Baker type, Benny Parsons type role, that he has this huge impact as a broadcaster. I mean, not to belittle his NASCAR career, because I still think, I know that he's, maybe overrated in the fact that he had fans that weren't there because of his success as a driver, but I still think he was a very successful driver.
Absolutely.
And so I don't want to belittle his career at all by any means, but I think he's going to have a bigger impact in the booth than he did on the track. That's my opinion.
I'm surprised at how many people were interested in watching the race just because he was in the booth. I see issues with that, but also I see good things with that.
Right.
If you're getting eyeballs to the TV broadcast, that's a good thing, no matter what it takes.
Yeah, and some of those eyeballs saw an excellent race at Chicago this weekend. That's good.
Yeah, they did. And Dale Jr. If he's bringing eyeballs, he's doing his job, and hopefully down the road that levels off and people aren't tuning in just because it's a Dale Jr. called race.
Right.
Hopefully they're tuning in because it's a good race, but Dale Jr. adding to it, definitely. I think he'll get there, and I just don't become too polished. Just be yourself.
Yep. I think NBC was a nice, refreshing change to broadcasting. And again, I don't want to bash Fox. I have bashed Fox on here. I still think Fox does an excellent job. But, Fox has the goofiness. Fox has the playfulness.
Yeah, I was just going to say, NBC is a more mature broadcast.
Now, I'll tell you what. If Fox doesn't go to other race broadcasts during a rain delay, their rain delay coverage is going to be more entertaining than NBC's is. ESPN was the same way. ESPN had great by the book coverage, but when a rain delay happened, it was boring because they wouldn't goof off. And the Fox guys will goof off with the drivers. That's way better during a rain delay. It's way better than when you're killing time. But during an actual race broadcast, I like the seriousness, and not that they're dead serious. They still joke around and stuff, but it just seems like a more mature broadcast.
Yeah, it caters to a smarter fan.
Yep.
Which is good. It's not the boogies.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I wish the boogity would go away. It's like 3 seconds. Why does it bother me? But God, I hate it. All right.
We love you, Daryl.
Yeah. All right. Really quick, I want to hit on the Truck Series race, which I just saw you highlight. You're not deleting it on me in the show notes, are you, James?
No, it was an accident.
Better not.
I wouldn't do that to you.
All right. So again, all three races I think this weekend were excellent. The Truck Series race on Friday night, the Overton's 250, was spectacular. Brett Moffitt, this guy they didn't know if they were coming to the track on Tuesday, and Friday night they win the race. It's his third win of the year, I think.
Yep, 3 wins.
And I mean, he's solidly in the playoffs. They did talk about in the press conference that they probably, if they wouldn't have gotten a sponsor, they probably would have come and did the start and park thing just to keep him in the running for it. But didn't have to do that. They got the sponsorship on the car, and Brett Moffitt gets the win. John Hunter Nemechek going into turn 1 in the last lap runs out of gas. Originally, they thought he blew up, but no, he ran out of gas. Video afterwards showed the gas man. They only put 1 can of gas in the truck on the last fuel stop or last pit stop. Man, that's a bummer for them. But Brett Moffitt comes home and gets the win. And again, just spectacular race. Lots of action. Perfect. Cautions falling at the right place. Chicagoland has turned into California, which has turned into a spectacular track. It was excellent. So anyway, after the race, I got a chance to ask Brett Moffitt, with the sponsorship issues aside, if they can get that resolved, does his team have what it takes to win the championship? Here's what he had to say.
Hell yeah. I got Shiggy, who's a great owner, and he put the right people in place, starting with Mike Ricci and Scott Zippadelli, and I don't see a weakness in our team at all. Everyone is so motivated, and everything we've had to deal with that's been a little bit of a distraction, just getting to the racetrack. I think once we fix that part, we're only going to get better and better. And, these guys do a great job of shutting all that off and just focusing on the race truck. And that's why we can still go to victory lane even with this much of a distraction. So I think if we fix that end, we're going to get better and better.
So basically, I mean, they're running against equipment, a lot more money than what they're running with and beating these guys. And that's pretty impressive. I mean, what they're doing there is excellent. It's got to be applauded, and it's really cool to see what they're doing for sure.
And quick note, Scott Zippadelli, don't you feel like he's worked for every team in the garage? By the way,
every time he's up there, I see him up there, and it's like, Scott Zippadelli. Let me make sure that that's really Scott Zippadelli, because man, it seems like he worked for a different team. Yeah, that's funny you say that.
Yeah, he's just been and I didn't even realize this. Shame on me. I didn't realize Scott was his crew chief, and my God, he has crew chiefs some dudes. I had to do a quick search.
Right.
He's crew chiefed everybody from Ward Burton, Travis Quaffle, Jason Leffler, Boris Said, Kenny Wallace, a young Alex Bowman, Patrick Carpentier. I got a couple more. Hold on. Travis Pastrana, Kenny Wallace again, Kyle Larson. He's crew chief to everybody. It's crazy.
Nice. Yeah,
anyway,
it does seem like he's everybody's crew chief. So
yeah, I heard that.
If I don't know who the crew chief is, it's probably just Scott Zippadelli.
It's Scott Zippadelli. Yeah, he's crew chief to everybody. That's fantastic.
So Moffitt said after the race, they're good for sponsorship for Kentucky coming up. That's the next Truck Series race. They have Bristol and Eldora they need to get sponsorship for, and he mentioned Homestead at the time, but then Shiggy Hattori, the team owner, announced there that he does have a sponsor for Homestead. They have a new sponsor that's coming in for Homestead. So they got 2 races to fill, and otherwise they're good to go for the rest of the season.
Fantastic.
I think these wins will probably help those 2 races, and I think
sponsorship or not, a win in the Truck Series is big for a team like that.
Right. And so it's a good chance that we might see somebody like him contend at the end of the season. That'd be pretty neat.
That's
so
cool. Heck of a driver.
Yeah,
so
definitely
deserves it.
Let's hit real quick on Chicagoland in general. Just wanted to bring this up. Again, all 3 races I think were spectacular. So here's the thing, and I wanted to mention this. And James, I know you're going to jump up and down. You're going to applaud. You're going to be so happy for this.
You know what? I'm not going to say a word. I'm just going to let you be you. Do your thing.
Here's what was great about Sunday's race there was nothing manufactured about this race. We didn't put restrictor plates on the cars. We didn't change the aero on the cars. We didn't put sticky stuff down on the track. We didn't make a figure 8. We didn't put cones in the corners to try. Nothing was manufactured. This was a good old-fashioned finish. There wasn't even a late race caution. I mean, nothing to set this up, and we had this spectacular finish. And I think that goes to show you, and it's helped me a little bit because I've been skeptical about the All-Star package, but I like what it kind of gave us the opportunity for. But I think this showed us that we don't need to fiddle with it. This stuff, we remember these races, these excellent races.
So much better, just so much better, right?
Yeah, but you remember. Well, but the thing is you think of all these great races. Okay, you think back, Ricky Craven and Kurt Busch at Darlington. You think back to the Daytona 500 where they wrecked on the backstretch when they were on the first time on TV live broadcast. You think of these big finishes. You think of Davey Allison and Dale Jarrett at Michigan battling to the line. Jeff Gordon and Kevin Harvick in 2001 at Atlanta. These excellent races, and you go, man, I just want it to be like the old days when that stuff happened all the time. It never did. It's never happened all the time. There's a reason why I would say arguably the race Sunday, it is possibly one of the top 10 best NASCAR Cup finishes ever. It is definitely in the top 20 best all-time NASCAR finishes ever, Cup Series finishes ever. There's a reason why this sport has been here for 60 years or whatever, and we're talking about a top 10 finish because they don't happen that often, and that's what makes them special. If this happened every week, who cares?
Exactly.
And we remember all these great races that happened in the past, but we don't remember, I guarantee you, we go back and look at that race in 91 with Dale Jarrett and Davey Allison coming on the line. Let's see how many cars were on the lead lap in that race. Let's see how many passes were there, how many lead changes. We don't think about all that stuff. We remember that finish. And
yeah, you remember the moments.
I think, I get that mile and a half create some stinkers, but maybe we just need some stinkers to have these good races every now and then.
Well, and I think for, when you can close your eyes and see the finish and hear the call, it's an all-time great. Like,
right.
One that people probably remember, when as soon as they hear the track, it kind of clicks. Watkins Glen.
Yep.
Marcus Ambrose, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch. How fantastic was that? You remember the call. You remember Kyle sliding and just a great finish there. And this is kind of in that realm with that finish.
Yeah.
This is one you're going to remember. You're going to remember Kyle Busch slapping the wall twice and Larson charging and sliding through turn 4. It's just, this is why sports are special. There's just moments, and you get them. You don't get them every week, and you shouldn't get them every week.
Right.
You get a great finish at Daytona, and you move on to the next week. But this is what it's all about. This is why you're a fan. It's a great rejuvenation for NASCAR fans, I think.
No, I don't expect to have this every week.
No,
I don't expect to have this even at Kentucky in a couple of weeks when we go back to the mile and a half again. But this has put me in the camp of I'm still interested in the All-Star package, but I am no longer in the camp of let's do this.
Welcome, Eric. We'll take you with open arms.
Now, that being said, I wouldn't mind having a couple tracks, say Michigan, for example, or an Indy. If it works there, let's throw it on at a track a year. Or
absolutely.
A couple tracks a year. Maybe a total of 2 to 4 races, preferably 2, and leave it at that. I am totally down with it being the All-Star package from here forward. It's perfect for the All-Star race.
Yeah, if we're going to stay at Charlotte, that's fine. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You and I had a really good talk about this last week. I think it was last week, right? We had a really good talk about this.
I think so. I don't.
Yeah, where we had talked about maybe if you have 2 dates on the calendar, you do one as a package and one as one as a standard. I think that was a pretty good resolution that we had discussed, and that's something that I'm for. But I'm definitely for keeping the plates off at all possible. That's kind of my stance.
Yep, I think so. I was skeptical about the restrictor plate to begin with. Restrictor plate concerned me, period. I don't think NASCAR necessarily is thinking about the restrictor plate full time either. I think they're testing with the restrictor plate to see what they need to do to the motors.
And people need to remember, a restrictor plate was never meant to be an enhancer of a race.
No,
it's
it was
made
to keep
for
cars
safety.
out of the fence.
Yeah, it's a safety feature.
Which it hasn't done a really great job of, but I guess they don't get airborne like they used to. It doesn't.
It makes
happen as often.
Talladega and Daytona a lot of fun, but
yeah.
Other than that, it's not really it's not really there to enhance the visuals of a race. It's
exactly
there to keep you safe.
Exactly. You know what else was great about this weekend, James?
What? Yeah.
That's what was great.
Hey,
about
every time we talk over each other, we should play the slide job.
Yes. All right, really quick because we're running long, and I figured we would, but that's okay. Couple news items real quick to hit on. Adam Stern of the Sports Business Journal, who I think we quote about every other podcast for having some big news
he's
item.
becoming a regular.
He notes that Kurt. Well, let me see. I'm jumping ahead. All 4 Stewart-Haas drivers are expected to return next year, according to him. That's what Stewart-Haas is telling him at Sports Business Journal. And just of note, Kurt Busch had a 1-year deal this year, which means he would have to re-up with Stewart-Haas. Is there any reason to think that wouldn't? I mean, I think with the way they're running, there's no reason to think that there'd be any concern with re-signing them, right?
No, and I think that 41 car is kind of Gene Haas's baby.
Yeah.
As long as Gene wants Kurt to stay in that ride, I think he's secure.
Right.
I think that's the way that 41 car has been handled, even ever since Stewart came on board and it was a 2-car team for a while. When they expanded to 3 and then 4 cars, I think Gene's been kind of in control there. So
yeah.
If Gene wants him, and he's gonna have him. So
yeah, with the way they're performing this year, I don't see that as any surprise. I wouldn't think it'd be real difficult to get a sponsor if Monster goes somewhere else. But with Monster leaving as I guess next year they're still on with Cup. So I'd be surprised if anything changed.
I'd expect that car to look the exact same next year. It's gonna be primarily funded by Haas, and then Monster's gonna be on there too. So
right. The other news item that I wanted to hit at real quick is during the Dale Jr. Download podcast last week, Denny Hamlin said something that was interesting, and this was, I guess it was recorded as we were doing our podcast, so we wouldn't have been able to talk about it last week. So Denny says that that NASCAR is considering midweek races, and we also learned, which I didn't put this in the notes, that he's part of a secret drivers' council that is different from the drivers' council we are all aware of.
God, Denny Hamlin.
I'll tell you what, and I don't know that there's a whole lot to discuss here. I think it's known that once this contract runs out with the tracks, that we're going to see some big schedule changes.
Yeah.
We may see some consolidation of schedule, and I think we're definitely going to see some midweek races. And
I love the idea of the midweek races.
I'm totally on board with it.
Yes, all short tracks. Midweek.
Yeah,
do it.
I'm good with it. So none of that is news, but the secret council is pretty interesting. And I'll tell you what, if you didn't listen to the Dale Jr. Download, listen to that this week or last week's with Denny Hamlin. Denny's an interesting guy. He's got a bad rap because he's put himself in some situations, probably not responded the best to those situations, but he seems like a pretty interesting guy, and I guess he's kind of shy and quiet, and so it makes him look unapproachable. He claims. But it was an interesting interview with him for sure. So
he's one of those guys where where the way he handles himself, the way he carries himself, has been a deterrent.
They called it the resting Denny face.
It
was pretty good.
There is something he's doing right though. He's had FedEx on that car his entire career, and Denny Hamlin being on a secret drivers' council is the most Denny Hamlin thing that's ever
right.
It's ever been known. So
and the Dale Jr. Download is also on NBC Sports now. I believe they show it on Thursdays.
Yeah, they do a half an hour re-up, I think.
Yeah, so check that out if you're not in the podcast thing, which you listen to us, you probably listen to podcasts, I would hope.
For sure.
Check it out. Check out his podcast, which you'll get the full thing. But if not, check out the NBC thing. And
absolutely,
yeah. So I had a Did We Care? We missed it last week. This week we kind of already talked about it. I'm skipping it. So let's talk about this weekend. We are going restrictor plate racing this weekend as the Coke Zero Sugar 400 at Daytona International Speedway. I have not checked the forecast. I know everybody was complaining last week that it was supposed to be hot and rain this weekend. So hopefully that goes away. But what do we expect for Daytona? I think should be some good racing, right, James?
Oh yeah, I love the Coke Zero 400. Well, Coke Zero Sugar 400.
Yes, come on, get it right.
Yeah,
it's still the Pepsi 400 to me.
Yeah, the Firecracker 400.
Exactly, it should be the Firecracker 400. You're right.
Firecracker.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the July race at Daytona.
Yep.
It's one of the best. It's one of the best of the year.
You want to talk about a hot, slick track? This is it, and that's part of the reason they run it at night, because they couldn't get people to show up during the day anymore.
Yeah, and there, I think I've heard drivers say this a few times, that it's definitely the 400 is actually probably the harder race to win out of the two, if you compare that to the 500, where you're under the lights, hot, slick track, driver ability really plays a little bit more of a factor, and I think Ford's going to be tough, as they have been at Daytona and Talladega. And other than that, I think we're going to get a good show.
Yeah.
How about you?
I agree, and I really don't have anything else to add to that. So you get the first pick. So go ahead, James. Who are you picking this week for Daytona?
I got the first pick going into a restrictor plate track.
Yeah.
That's an interesting...
Should I just put it down right now? I know who you're going to pick.
Yeah, put Brad down.
I knew it.
I toyed with Joey, but... Joey's got his win on the season, so I'll go with Brad's yet to win, which is kind of strange.
So you're gonna laugh. I get the next two picks, so I get to pick my dark horse.
I think I might know who you're gonna pick, but let's hear it.
You're gonna laugh because, well, okay, who am I gonna pick as my actual pick? Who do you think?
I think your actual pick. I think you might go with Eric Almirola.
Yes, I'm gonna go with somebody who I would probably give you a dark horse pick for if you wanted to, but I'm going Eric Almirola. And I'm going to go right with that, and I'm going to take Bubba Wallace as my dark horse.
Ooh.
And I'm going with both of them. I think they both ran excellent at Daytona in February. I think Almirola is... I like I said, I would give him as a dark horse pick, but I have no problem saying not really, because...
I don't know if he qualifies.
The way he's been running lately, he's almost getting out of dark horse territory anyway.
Yeah, I almost picked him this week, too. I was thinking about it.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So
that's a good pick.
Who's
That's
your dark horse?
Man, I was looking through the list, and why is Justin Marks is up there with a 12th place finish, which is funny. Austin Dillon's really good there too, by the way.
Yeah,
we should at least mention that. It's Daytona 500 win, regardless. He's been really good.
Right.
Dark horse though, man. I'm gonna go with that 88 car. I think Alex
that's
Bowman,
a good one.
I think Alex Bowman's figuring some stuff out. I think he's gonna run really well.
That would have been my alternate. I think I would have gone with him. So that's a good one.
Yeah.
All right. I smell campfire, which is really odd because none of our windows are open.
Yeah.
That's a little
might not be a good
concerning.
thing.
So maybe we should wrap up the podcast pretty quick here. So anyway, I probably no need to mention the fantasy league. Is there? Did I win this week, James? Probably not.
Honestly, I didn't even look. I was so frustrated that I just picked my lineup and I got the heck out of it.
I'm sure Todd won.
Todd probably did win.
I'm sure he did. So anyway, like I said, this past weekend I was at Chicagoland. If you didn't check out the coverage, check it out on the superspeedway.com. There's all kinds of stories up there. I didn't do as much photography as normal, but just had a blast. Got to experience Chicagoland Speedway, which was pretty great, and definitely plan on going back there. And so check that out. I will be at Kentucky Motor Speedway in 2 weeks, and then Eldora Speedway for the truck race right after that, and doing Michigan in August yet as well. So if you like what I'm doing, would like to see me do a little bit more of it, hit us up on Patreon, patreon.com/thesuperspeedway. Become a patron and contribute a little bit. We're not gonna, you don't have to pay for anything. All this stuff is available to you. There might be some exclusive stuff on Patreon once we get some people to sign up, but you're not gonna be missing any NASCAR coverage otherwise. But we'd really appreciate it if you like what you're seeing, if you want to support us and get us to more places. And I'll go to as many tracks as I can afford to go to, but right now I'm at my limit. So yeah, if you'd like to support us, go to patreon.com/thesuperspeedway. TheSuperspeedway.com is our website. You can find us on social media during the week as well. James, where can they find you on Twitter?
James Cush on Twitter, Kuch.
There you
go. How do you spell that? You
can find me at TSuperspeedway on Twitter. I tweeted a crap ton this weekend from Chicago. We're doing the same thing from Kentucky and Eldora. Well, probably not as much at Eldora. Eldora I'll be shooting photos at because there's no press box at Eldora. So if you want to find us on Facebook, we're at facebook.com/thesuperspeedway. Website is www.thesuperspeedway.com. You can find our podcasts on there, show notes, stories. I've been doing my take, which I need to put mine together for this week after Chicagoland. I've been doing that for the last couple of weeks, so look for those. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, and SoundCloud. Wherever you heard it today, we hope you subscribe and continue to join us. This weekend is Coke Zero Sugar 400 at Daytona International Speedway. It is Saturday night, 7:30 p.m. on NBC. The big network gets it, and the Xfinity Series runs the night before, Friday, July 6th. The Coca-Cola Firecracker 250, 7:30 p.m. on 7:30 p.m. race time, 7 p.m. broadcast on NBCSN. Camping World Truck Series is off this weekend. They will be back at Kentucky Speedway. Did I miss anything? I think I got it all.
I think you got it, man.
Yeah, I think we got it. Just one more thing though. I did miss this.
Yeah.
Oh, I could listen to that all day. It's great.
Oh,
all right,
man.
with that, it's Daytona International Speedway this weekend. Restrictor plate racing this weekend. We will be back next week. Squeeze in some time before I head off to Kentucky to talk about Daytona and get you guys a preview on Kentucky and everything else in NASCAR. Until then, let's go racing.